dancing angels. How you feeling? Say that again. Beautiful. So I want to come back to Hafiz, that he offers that we were created to smile, to love, to be uplifted, and to lift others up. I think that's a pretty complete description of what we are here for. Yeah? And we've been talking all month long about faith. And that faith is built up, as Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, teaches us, by belief, acceptance, and trust. And I think sometimes we disconnect our faith practice from what we are here for. We disconnect it from the joy that we've been created to be and express. We disconnect it and forget that we are made to love and smile and be lifted up and lift each other up. So the why of your faith practice is for your joy. And the quote I shared with you earlier comes from a book by Barbara Holmes called Joy Unspeakable. And it's a book about the Black contemplative practice from the Black churches. And most people don't think the Black church is a contemplative church, right? But what she's offering is a loud, a joyful noise is also a faith practice, and one that is contemplative. That getting out of your chair at church and dancing it out is contemplating God. That this joy that you are made of, that God is, that is inherent in your being, that you have to do nothing to earn or get, but you must accept it as truth. You must believe that you were truly made for joy. And you've got to continually allow yourself to rest and trust in that truth. Right? So the practice, what does that look like? How is it that you remember that you were made for joy? Shout it up. This is your shout out time. How do you remember that you were made for joy?
Dance.
Dance. Gratitude, I heard over here.
Sing.
Sing. Play. Eat.
Watch the children, don't teach it.
Watch the babies. Yeah, they haven't forgotten yet.
Go to the zoo.
Go to the zoo. All of laughing, absolutely. All of those things that just got named are spiritual practices. And yet, in our faith traditions, we don't often think of them as such. Right? We somehow think of that as like separate from my faith life. Separate from my spiritual life. I'm going to go over here and laugh now. Right? I'm going to go over here and dance. But it is one and the same. The reason we are looking for God, longing for something more, longing for more love, something greater, something beyond our understanding, is because that thing in us that is longing already knows we were made for joy. And is seeking a greater of an expression of itself. Much like the divine. We talk in this tradition a lot about the macro and the micro. That the characteristics of God, the characteristics of the divine, the truth about this intelligence that is all there is, that is bringing itself to life as our creation. And it is doing so out of the delight of its own being. God just wants to see itself dance. And you and I are the dancers. And so when you forget that you were made to dance a sacred dance, you forget that you've been divinely made and are here on purpose. And that's the purpose. Your purpose is not to be a good human. Your purpose is not to make other people feel better. Your purpose is not to serve. Your purpose is not to be a jerk face. Your purpose is not to create harm. Your purpose is to dance the sacred dance that the divine has created you to dance. And from that place of faith, of believing and accepting and trusting that you are made for joy, you will naturally be all the good things that you think you should be. You will naturally be lifted up and lift others up, because that's the dance. You will naturally smile, you will naturally love and be loved. But it depends entirely on where you are moving from. Because if you're moving from over here, I must be a good human and do all the good right things. Instead of moving from here, I have been made for joy and I am here to dance God's dance. Reality, this place, is what creates harm. Because you are moving from an outer condition that is less true than this condition. That you are divinely made and made for joy. And when that is the motivator, when that is the impulse to all activity, I'm talking about even washing the dishes, right? If all activity is rising from that truth, you don't ever have to worry about it, whether or not you are behaving badly, whether or not you're being good. You don't have to worry about the rules, because the rules have nothing to do with it. I was told once by a teacher early in my spiritual life, and she said, she was talking about the rules. I know there's a more fancy name for the rules in religious traditions, right? The commandments and the rules from all the faith traditions. And she was saying the rules are there as training wheels. But somewhere along your spiritual journey, you have to take the wheels off and allow your faith to guide you. Because the faith that you effort in, as I talked about last week, the faith that you commit yourself to, the faith that you continuously bring yourself back and back and back and back to, that belief, acceptance, and trust in your nature as divinely made, as good. Moving from that place means you will always be in alignment with what is true. You do not have to check yourself against some outside set of rules. If you are unsure about your choice, if you are unsure about a decision, if you are unsure about a behavior, that place in you that knows that it knows that it knows is not unsure. That place in you that was made for joy, that has been called to dance a sacred dance, always knows the right thing to do. And our job is to get into deeper, intimate relationship with that. Our job is to build and develop a deeper faith in our divine nature, in your divine nature. And no one is outside of the divine nature. Because if you and I believe that God is omnipresent and omnipotent, then you don't get to act outside of that. You get to act out of alignment with it. And we do all the time. Probably did it today. But the work is in the faith, is in the aligning your conscious awareness with what is true about you. That there's no other possibility other than you are divinely made. And that your mind is in the mind of God because God is omnipresent and omnipotent at all times, never failing. And everything that you and I call suffering, every little tiny itty bitty drop of suffering is a result of separating ourselves in our minds from this truth. Think about a time where you've had some bad behavior recently. Don't look at me like you haven't had bad behavior recently. Yes, you have. Find that thing in your mind and think about whether or not in that moment or preceding the moment, the decision, the choice, the behavior, you knew yourself to be divinely made. You were separated from the truth. Guaranteed. That's where all bad behavior comes from. So if you and I want a world that works for everyone, you first have to have a life that works for you. You have to have a faith practice that works for you. You have to have a habituated daily engagement with your divine nature. How many of you have a daily practice of consciously connecting with your divinity? Every day. Every day. Every day you are divinely made. Every breath you take is a breath of the divine. But you and I have to get into conscious, intimate relationship with it, and there's no escaping the daily practice. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be strenuous and painful and boring. You can dance it out on a daily basis. You can sing it out on a daily basis. You can laugh it out on a daily basis. Because as Hafiz says, my mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance the sacred dance of life. So when you are overrun, when you are stressed out, when you are steeped in anxiety, worry, you forget your call. When you are looping on your pain and your heart becomes too heavy to remember your call, it is your daily practice that's going to bring you back. It is the muscles you build around your faith that are going to catch you when you fall. It is the beloveds you surround yourself with who are also committed to remembering that are going to catch you when you fall, that are going to be the ones lifting you up when you need it. Because the work is always the remembering, the returning. But if you and I aren't committed to making it a habit, we won't. We won't remember. We'll remember for an hour on Sunday. Not super helpful. The world you and I want to live in is a result of who you and I are being. It is not somebody else's job to fix the world, to make it all better. It isn't all those other good humans doing all the good things that are going to make the world. It's you and me. Committing ourselves to center ourselves in the sacred dance of life. Every solution you and I want in our own lives, in our relationships, in our families, in our bodies, in our bank accounts, It's a spiritual solution every time, without fail. Because the mess we create when we forget ourselves, when we have forgotten that we are divinely made, can only be solved when we remember ourselves and allow the solution to rise from the wisdom of our divine nature, from that voice, that sensation, that knowing, that guidance that is given in the divine, in your own being, already has the solution for you. It is already there. But it's your intimate connection and relationship with that voice, with that impulse, with that knowing, with that discernment, that's going to help you hear it, that's going to help you take the step. Which is why the mission here starts with love in action. It is the love that moves us into right action. The love in your very own being that you are made of. And so I want you to go back to the bad behavior. And I want you to connect to whatever you felt when you were dancing or meditating or mini grooving earlier. I want you to run that bad behavior through that feeling, through that sense, through that knowing. How might you have done that differently? Do you have a pretty quick sense of what that is? Yeah? Raise your hand. Yeah. So imagine you have given yourself permission to center your divine nature in your daily life. And that's who made the choice. That's who took the action. Can you see with me right now that your life would change almost instantly? And maybe not an epic giant like you hit the lottery kind of ways, but in pretty magnificent ways. The love you would get to experience from that choice. The upliftment you would get to experience and offer as a result. This is how the world comes into being, the world you and I actually want to be living in. So I have one more question for you. What are some ways you can pray with your whole self this week? Walking the dog. Amen. I actually do that. I pray when I walk my dog. Right?
Petting her cat.
I heard two things.
I'm petting her cat.
Petting somebody's cat.
I pray when I'm washing my dishes.
Washing dishes prayer right there. Thank you, Deborah. Who else did I miss?
Baking.
Baking. I would like my mother to bake a little less.
Why?
There's like a cookie festival happening in my place that could chill out a little bit. I've asked for scones. Can we just reduce the sugar level? What else? What else can you commit yourself to this week and begin to habituate yourself to? Soaking. I'm putting that on my list. Man. Reiki. Yes. Whole body prayers. What could work for you?
Chopping vegetables.
Chopping veggies. That would not work for me. Go Ben. Ben is chopping veggies. Yeah. Then you can bring them to me, Ben. Yeah. What else?
Gardening.
Gardening. That's my jam right there. Who's having a hard time thinking of what could I add to my routine? Who's having a hard time landing on something? Raise your hand, be honest. When I say joy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Dancing. So there's your answer. Even if it's you in the shower for 27 seconds, yeah, it could just be a little bit of this.
You can do it at
This is what becomes possible, right? We do not have to take our spiritual lives so seriously. Joy is what we have been made for. So I'm going to ask you to repeat after me the prayer that Hafiz ends his poem with. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares. Free my soul that we might dance, and that our dancing might be contagious. And so it is. So it is. All right, let's anchor this in prayer, science of mind style. I invite you to close your eyes if you are willing. Because what I know about this holy, sacred wine is that it literally danced you and I into being. The carbon that is in my body right now, that is in your body right now, got danced up into this planet, and you and I were made alive. Made alive with the goodness, with the joy, with the peace, with the harmony, with the hallelujahs, animating our very flesh. Here on purpose, on divine purpose, when God said, I want to know myself through a sacred dance. And so God said, you and you and you and you and you, and continues to orchestrate this dance with my aliveness and your aliveness. Continues to delight in the beauty and the love and the laughter and the chopping and the washing. And I know that for sure, as you become more intimate with this reality, with this truth that is your divine nature, that has been divinely made and put on this planet in this moment on purpose, breath in your body with one job to do. To dance the sacred dance. To remember more fully, more wholly who and what you are. And that as you move into the habit of your divinity, as you deepen your trust and belief and acceptance in the truth of who you are, what I know for sure is your life changes. And what I know for sure is that your life changes, the lives around you change, the communities that you belong to change, the world changes. This is how powerful you are. I am wildly grateful for this power, for this sacred dance. And I absolutely, with profound gratitude, trust that it continues to unfold, moving for greater good with every breath you and I take. That is the only possibility because God. And so I just let it be. Unfolding in perfection, blossoming in beauty. Anchor this with me in prayer by saying amen. And so it is.